Okay. So, what was it?
Where we were talking, yeah, like how, um, yeah, it's about the translation. You see, like the translation between one artist want and what really takes for the developer to come up with the idea.
Mm.
So
Mm.
yeah, no, like it's about the translation. It's always, I think it's many times it's about the translation. For instance, like if I'm working as developer for somebody else, because I completely don't understand, let's say a part of the abstractions of the poetics that we taught the last week, a part of this abstraction that is another completely complicated level, just the technical part, just the technical part, it will take you as developer a normal time until you understand the tool. And then so you need to get to know the tool. If it's something that is somehow is new, I don't know, it's a sensor, let's say, it will take you anyway some time until you understand what you can do with it, and then after you can then put the wishes of the artist there, right?
In that case, so the artist had some kind of idea that what they want, right?
Yeah, and you are not working, let's say, artistically, you're just like executing something. You are not trying to translate poetics too much. It's just the
Right.
technical, and it's still like the timing is very blurry. And for the artist, because that's the thing, when you work, then for the artist, you are a technician in a way. You're a developer, you're a
Yeah.
technician, you're executing. So the artists don't really want to deal with it. And because of that, if you don't foreseen that some things that just come with experience, if you don't foreseen that you're gonna need more time, then you might end up yourself in some deadline that you don't want to be, because then you were
Right.
gonna be really stressed out working for, I don't know, 4 or 5 days, like no sleep and not being happy. I think that's another maybe a question that I would like to ask you, like then this idea of, because when you're working with some, there, there's one thing of when you're happy with your work, there's one thing when you are the artist, then in a way, yet you have control of that. But then when you're working with somebody else and the person is asking you to work with thermodynamics or with a robot, and you by yourself, you would like to do something that you feel happy with it, you know what I mean? But many times you have
Yeah. I
just to.
mean, the happiness maybe comes from the money, but that's, let's put this aside. But yeah, because of course, like for me, I do this kind of gig that I'm paid and I make something. I write code to realize something, and um, in rare case, it's something that I have like I talk with artists and we find something that's interesting through the discussion and experimentation. But often the case is that the artist wants something very specific, and I need to try to get to that point with the program. And sorry, the video is a bit glitchy today, but yeah, what I wanted to say is,
Okay.
what did I want to say? Yeah, so in that case, like I have to make something that's always really difficult, because if you achieve something, then okay, maybe they're happy, but then if you fail, that's sad. It's always like maybe you can surprise the artist with whatever that comes more than what they expect, but it's that's really rare. It's hard to um, um, disappoint them, but it's making them happy is very hard. And then the happiness for myself, uh, it's also really hard, because of course I learned something while coding, for someone else. It's not like making a website. So I mean, of course, making website, I learned something as well, but it's very often it's really specific project that I would never do by myself, which or like they have really strange ideas that, in a sense, that I would never do because I know that it's going to fail, or I know that
Yeah.
it's I don't know,
Yeah.
like it's just someone did like decades ago, but they still want to do, or like something that I don't want to do, but then if I try to do it, then maybe
Yeah.
it's something interesting in it, or even if it's something that, for example, like the client wants something with face tracking, and I've done face tracking a lot and I'm kind of tired of it, but still do it. And then, but still, like, because it's a very different setup, that it's commercial and they have their like different kinds of demand, that I learned something from it. I would try something that I would never really come up with, or I just ignore some ideas. And then through these projects, I actually do it, and I learn. And often I take these ideas. I cannot reuse exactly the code. I mean, actually I can, but maybe the output, the appearance should be different from how they do it in their installation, for example, or performance. But I still reuse it for what I do because it's quite interesting as an
Mm.
idea that I think it's something that is like as a property, intellectual property. I mean, often we don't really sign these difficult, complicated contracts, but it's something that I make
For
with
them.
them, for them.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's also like a collaborative thing, that it's not like 100% I own, or they 100% own, unless we sign a contract like that. So
Yeah.
that's
Which
something
is,
interesting.
yeah. I think from what you're saying, I put it as in my notes as a I put it as a stupid ideas client, but as a positive thing. I put it in my notes as like those ideas that in your head you will not try because in your head are like the reason that you gave, no. So I put it out like in my head are like stupid ideas that only I will try because somebody's asking me and is paying me for that. And because of that, then you can realize that while you're doing that, then you enter into places that you will not have been,
Right,
because you will not conceive to try something that is old or that you think it might not be possible or just waste of time, or all these reasons.
right.
I didn't thought of that. I think it's, yeah, I felt like, yeah, I remember when I started the working in production and design, because now I'm being a bit reflecting because I have to give a bio for the Note festival.
Ah, yeah.
So then I was adapting my bio, and then I was thinking, then I was going back in time, no, and I remember clearly, like when 2015, I decided, okay, now I want to do more than just being an artist. I want to try to work then because I wanted to just basically spread out more the message. Then I thought I wanted to work with production and art direction basically. And then during doing these things, then I thought very clear when then when you're challenging with and challenge you're challenged when you have a client, when you're working with somebody else, because you have to make yourself, I mean, if I'm working for myself on the sake of art, I can you find your own language, you create your own language. And when you're working for somebody else, it's very challenging because then you have to, for instance, in my experience, because I'm coming from the art field, I have been the artist. And then in a way, I remember when I was like some time ago, then I was doing something in a theater, and then I thought like, man, I'm working as technician. And that was kind of an inside joke to myself, because then I have been the artist, like who is complaining to the technician. And I think that's the whole, yeah, I think when I see, when I think in terms of my own path, and what I see like the power of the thing that I have is that I have the speech in the both directions, which it happens with you with dance as well. You know that you know some things that the only way that you can know about it is being there in the place, or in the field. Yeah. And yeah, and I think it's very challenging when you have to work for somebody else. It's not always pleasant, but you learned a lot, right?
Yeah, yeah, I think that's true. I mean, it depends. Like sometimes it's just, at the end everyone's not happy, and I just, well, yeah, but I learned something at least, by like making something, because there's always something that you don't expect would happen. Like it's hard to give an example, but yeah, even with like unhappy collaboration, like because always, it's really like especially for performance. I mean, same for the installation, but you have the constraint with the space and what equipment you have. Like maybe the projector is not big enough, or like there's like a strange delay, strange noise coming, so you have to like replace some of the equipment with something that has lower capacity or something, and then you have to be kind of creative, quote unquote. I don't know if it's the right word, but
Because of Martin.
yeah, but I think that's exactly what how he frames creative, because what I'm saying is that you have the constraint and somehow you have to be creative to solve that. That's not possible without being creative.
No.
Yeah, so there's something. Yeah, I don't know if I want to continue this, but
I wanted to share with you some. Wait, what? The last time. What? No, this is mine. I want to text concept. Ah, yeah. So this was what? No. It's because the last time when we, where is it? Content digital. This one should be here. Practice yesterday. Ah, yeah. So I'm gonna read something that I just write yesterday when I
okay.
finish. It says, so it says, I'm happy, me hyper, me moving, me message, me miming, me mining, me chill, me out. I can't control what I want to. You want to. I'm not. Peace of mind. That was what I wrote.
like
Um,
like after practicing yesterday.
yeah. So then I just put it like sometimes I do as a practice as well when I learned it from a woman called Eleonora Bauer. Um, it's part of like writing practices from dance. So then right after then we were dancing. So then you are hype. Then just you go and then you write something. And then there was some specific exercise with her. But so it was not specifically for this, but it's very similar in that framework. We just finished and I just
I see.
and I remember that because we have the last time this conversation about kind of like yeah, we talk about messages. What is this? I cannot find. When was the last time we talked? The yeah, 15, and I put in my notes here, delivered messages, and we talk about tools. Um, uh, so then I thought a bit of that, and it was very interesting because since we use almost like 45 minutes on explaining this hydro thing, just
Yep.
in the last 15 minutes, I didn't care about anything because like for instance, I didn't even open my, normally I will handle some things between my BDMX and I just, or I will connect my other screen or like have different setups. I mean, I will have, normally my setup is big. As you can imagine, like from all the smoke machines and things and
Yeah.
buff. But then yesterday, because it was just so short, then I was really moving and dancing. and I felt really happy.
Mm.
Uh, and but at the same time, then I was looking at you. So there was conscious. I was conscious of when I was going by myself and when I was with you. It was the first time because I mean, maybe it's first time conscious, I guess, before it happened, but because we have this conversation about message, and basically because slowly we start talking what in my head from my thoughts, it's about composition tools that start rising in the practice, things that I can pick up point in while I'm doing the practice with you. Then um, I was waiting sometimes, and or I was just, I guess, conscious and unconsciously being in relation with you. Um, yeah, yeah. And then I found the need as well to to put words. I think I share a window with words.
Yeah,
You get
I haven't watched it yet, but
yeah.
I saw some text editor or something that you were
Yeah, yeah.
writing.
So,
Yeah,
and yeah, I mean, actually, what you're gonna find there is no more than it's just very. I think I wrote at some point poo 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 poo. I don't know why, because you were because the song was like the sound was like so it just seems like okay, just um yeah, yeah. How
mm.
was the experience for you? Oh, you're drinking club mate. Oh.
Yeah,
We don't have in Belgium. In Belgium, people don't drink the thing that much. It's not so
yeah,
often you can find. I really like it. In Germany, you find it everywhere.
yeah. Somehow it's a German thing. I mean, of course, it's not German thing, but well, Club Mate is German things.
It's colonized by German.
Yeah,
That's another idea I would like to discuss with you. But I want to hear first how you how it felt yesterday.
yeah. Um, there are a few things I want to talk about, but first, I think because you said the words, and I think it was really interesting that my setup, like I would suppose, well, I wanted to do something that the visual react to the sound, like last time I did as a solo, and this was not, somehow it was not configured properly, and I think at one point there's like this shape in the background, like before we went to this performance practice, like when I was explaining something, I think I was just playing in the background,
Oh
like
yeah, there was an audio reactive shape
yeah,
before.
and that was
Yeah.
like funny accident that it was not picking up the sound that I'm generating, but it was picking up
No.
your
No,
voice,
man. Yeah,
and that
yeah, yeah.
was
It
really
was
funny
great.
because then we could do like so many things with that, you know, like
Yeah. So, but wait, let me try to understand then, because I saw it. I mean, I watched it fast, and then I saw at some point when then we were talking, and then I was talking because I couldn't see that ball when we were. I mean, while we were, because I cannot see your screen. You know,
right,
I think you were not sharing that screen with me at that moment.
perhaps, yeah,
But then in the composition, I see when I'm talking, then there is this ball that I thought, like, whoa, that's a bit weird because there's my voice like there behind of you, big brother talking to you in your back. It's very, very funny. But wait,
yeah.
so, and is that audio reactive from Hydra?
Well, the visual is Hydra, and I wanted that to react to the sound I was making with tidal cycles.
So what then normally you will put from Hydra, you will put the audio to listen to your microphone?
No, it's I set up something like like a internal loop back. So what's sent to you or what's sent to my headphone, it's also sent to like a virtual loop back, and
Okay.
I set the Chrome to listen to that so that Hydra was actually listening to not the microphone but to the sound I was making and your voice as well.
But it was, I think it was reacting just to my voice, not to yours.
Yeah, it was weird.
Why?
I don't know. There's something set up wrong, and I was like, I was so yesterday I was really frustrated like with that. somehow it was not working as I expected. And also, it took so long for, setting up all the things. And I felt like when I started for the last 10, 15 minutes, I was like so frustrated, like, come on, like we wasted so much time and I want to do like so many things and I cannot do it. And also, like, I think I started to have this in mind that because I kind of upload images or videos every time when I do it. So
Yeah.
I started to feel like I want a nice image, I want a nice image to share. Like this is,
Yeah.
it's ridiculous. Like now I
Yeah.
feel like what I was thinking, like just, it doesn't make sense to go for that, it's.
But no, but it seems to me like, it's just, it's like, I think it's okay as you, when you are not the victim of it, it's like the same reason. For instance, I like to buy things from brands, like, and I try to be ecological and try, I think it's completely going against my political position, and I'm completely unsustainable in the way who you have no, I think I have more than 40, 50 part of shoes, for instance. I have a problem buying shoes, for instance. And what I'm trying to say with this is that it's like, first, like, people, if somebody's watching that, people should not buy so many shoes. It's not good. But then is that I think as long that something is happening, as long as you're not suffering from, as long as I'm not suffering from my problem, then it's okay, because then otherwise will be like the same what it happens from the alcoholic who drinks to forget that he's a drunk, right? And that's horrible.
Mm.
You see what I mean? That if you can, if there are some things that in somehow they might create conflict in my head for some reason, and there could be many. So let's say one of these is like, I like to take as well. What I do is take a screenshot. So I shared my screenshot yesterday. I take a screenshot sometimes. So if for some reason I kind of have a conflict defined within me, between I should be focused in being here, not focused in the screenshot or many other thoughts in my head. I think that's a problem that's already super big, because I can make it as big as I can, because I can put things in top, thinking that I'm not respecting your time, or that I'm respecting my time. I mean, so many things that it's too late, or yeah, I could put so many things and make the problem as complicated as nobody will ever understand, not even myself. So that's something that I cannot erase. But I think if in top of that I am worried because they have that big problem, that's what I put the example of the alcoholic who drinks to forget that he's drunk. That's which happens, no? Then otherwise you end up. I think so. Yeah, like if I have a problem with something, it's okay as long as I'm not suffering from it.
I see.
That's how I feel from. I mean, that's how I try to not be hard
Mm.
with things.
I see.
I don't know how you see, because then we can put this in terms of like, yeah. If I think about computers, then I'm really hard, but I try, yeah, because I think, for instance, because I'm new to in the field, I was, for instance, like I have to repeat this thing I have to repeat this web stack. I make for my school. I create this website that is a full stack with the front end and the back end that I told you. I counted with a tool that I can count hours. I count 169 hours of my time, that's a lot, which is about, that means 6 hours working for 3 months, more or less. And then I didn't pass. I was like, when I got it was the day that I did not something, because I have kind
Mm.
of like a thing, if I'm gonna fight, because I thought it was not fair. I even pay for a boot camp. I spent a lot of time in that. So when that happened, I feel you know, completely defeated. I feel stupid as well because I thought, come on, I mean, and as well as a part of feeling stupid, that was me with myself. I thought it was not fair and all these kind of things. So in a situation like this, it's very difficult to not be mad at me for different reasons. With it, because it's something new for about like working with computers. But then, for instance, just with now, there's a bit more days that pass already. Then I know I spend way too much time studying because that's the way who I do a lot. I prepare way too much, and then when I have to execute, let's say I prepare what I really from the 169 hours, I think I work maybe 10 hours, 12 hours on my assignment for real, the
I
web,
see.
and the rest were just studying. And basically what I was trying to do is like learn the whole JavaScript, the whole JavaScript. Like I went to really some advanced things like in theory that I should not, that I didn't
Probably
need,
there are
you
so
know?
many things that I don't know.
Yeah. So
I know,
so
like there. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, JavaScript is like it's just it's the language of the website. There's so many shits that are there, and I bought this JavaScript bootcamp, and it was complete, and I was keep on following things that, I mean, they just asked me to do back end from front end, communicate with the uh, uh, with MongoDB. And so yeah, but for instance, that's the way who I, that's like being honest, like those are my weak points, you know, like I can recognize, and that's because of me and my ego, you know, because it's my ego. I think it's a fight between my ego and my fears, in terms of like, I don't know why I didn't start working on that before. I was working against and with my deadline, you know, just the last few hours working on that. I have 3-4 months for work on that. I went to PAF to be alone, to not be disturbed by my girlfriend, for instance. I mean, because I know it was the most difficult subject in my school. So, and it's still like that. I was just preparing. And yeah, it was not, so it's difficult for me not to feel stupid about something like that, you know, to not be hard on me, you know, with myself, to not be hard on the fact and all these things, in different ways. Uh, because yeah, maybe in the relation what we were talking before is because is the way how I try to see things is that I cannot make things better to keep on worrying for something that is problematic for me. Let's say I know I have a problem in terms of how I plan my things. I prepare too much. I don't start executing very soon. I need big setups. That's the way how I deal with things. Um, so I know the only thing I can do is like, I guess, try to learn for the next time and better to be more practical. But the part of that, then yeah, it will give me problems if I keep on thinking on that, you know.
Yeah, I
I don't
see.
know how you feel when you encounter yourself with problems, or let's say with basically with desires, no, like what you wish and it's not happening.
You mean like so you start thinking about it and it just doesn't help?
Yeah, let's say, yeah, like it's just in the work, like for instance yesterday, how you deal with that, like
Yeah, I'm trying to like understand why you brought that up, because well, I started to understand what you mean. Well, so I had only like let's say we had 10 minutes, and I start to think like when we started, like I was already frustrated because, I'm not saying that, well, of course, because you asked a few things, so I was explaining and that took time, but that was already happened. And then, I was really like, because I think it's because I did, my solo already like twice, and I knew that I can do so many things if I have like 1 hour for myself.
yeah,
And
that's
then
true.
given that, I was like, shoot, like I have 10 minutes and it's just like, yeah, yeah, it's not fair, and it's like and also like I was explaining to you, so I was like, oh, like this is not cool. But then I think that's one problem, and then I started to think that because I only have 10 minutes, I have to make something nice that I can put on my Instagram, for example. This is really, this is like it's terrible idea, but I thought about it, and then I think I was trying to do it, and while I was doing, maybe like after 5 minutes, I started to think like, why am I thinking like this? This is also like it's ridiculous that I'm trying to make something to put on Twitter or Instagram. Like that's not the reason why I'm doing it. And I don't know how I end up like, or I don't know, maybe I realized that after
The video was cool.
it was
Like
okay.
the Instagram video was nice, yeah.
Yeah, it was okay. But that was like already I was consciously trying to make something that I can upload. Maybe after that, maybe when it hit 10 p.m., we stopped it, and then I was like, oh my gosh, this is like, I couldn't do, maybe I could only do like 10% of what I wanted to do, for example. And then
Yeah.
I started to think like, why? Like, what's really the point? So I think I didn't really go into that spiral because it was already like performative, and
Yeah.
like I was kind of in the flow, or although I was frustrated. Like I know what I want to do. I know I can only do 10% of what I want to do, but still like I have to do it and
Yeah.
whatever. So it's actually not a bad thought that I wanted to do something to put on Instagram, for example, that kind of drove me. And anyways, whatever I think that's what I can do, like I can also try to understand what you are doing and try to respond with the body. But yeah, I mean, that could be possible too. Maybe I would have less interesting video or less interesting sound, but that could have been done. Yeah, I don't know what I should have done, but I think it was not bad. That maybe every time also like we should think about putting something on Instagram. I don't
I
know.
I I I I think that something that if I'm doing like if I'm with you, for instance, like basically we share a space. And then because we share the space, it's like as if you're in a house, no? It's like then then shit happens sometimes, and then it's just part of life, no? This is how I
Yeah,
see it.
totally.
So
That's what I
yeah.
thought after the performance practice. Like I was like, yeah, but it's just a part of the game, it's not
Yeah.
something like if I want to do something for myself, just do it
You
by
do it.
myself, it's different thing.
That's different. A different thing. Yeah. And it's something that I reflect when I told you when I saw the video, and then I thought like, oh my god, I need to stand up my game, like, because then I
Like
felt
when you
like,
saw my
oh,
solo.
you're the when you were doing the loan. After that, one of the things that I thought is like, with that anyway, what I because after I was playing as well, when we finished yesterday as well, I keep on playing with
Yeah,
alone, and it was partly when those words came up afterwards, and then is I understood or like think that in that space is the space that I'm with you. And actually, like when we have this, like the conversation for me are so so nutritious, like when we have these chats, because normally after I listen them, not all the time, but sometimes I do it completely, and then I see things that I cannot see, um, um, for because part of my personality or who I am. But then when I see it, I have a perspective that I can see myself, and I can listen to you, or I can listen to me as well speaking, and then I can catch things that they are in the air. They're in the air, which are basically you and me talking in relation to what we are doing.
Yeah.
um
And for
yeah,
me, like yesterday, I was not explicitly like reacting to what you were doing, let's say, but you were in my background, right?
yeah,
And I did. So when I was doing, like, I was thinking that, okay, like I shouldn't care, like just do whatever I want, do whatever on my appearance in the video or whatever to play with it with Hydra. But I was already thinking that because you have this, something red around your body, or like
mhm,
I was already seeing that, and then I was not trying to respond to it, but it was like it also affected my decision of how to change my appearance, which maybe it's really little, but still it was there. I totally remember that I was looking at you, and I was maybe not doing anything with your image, but it was part of something, the whole, landscape or whatever. And that was
yeah,
really interesting to think back.
yeah, yeah. So actually, yeah, because I was just going back like to what like the last, because we spent the last time we talked quite a lot about this in the tools,
Yeah.
about tools and the message, and then yeah, it's like I don't know. I think that's like so. It's very complicated, but for instance, what we talk when we speak about the message of yeah, then it could be because we have so many elements, right? Because we have the space, we have um, the because there is my computer, there is your computer, then you're sending me your images. So there is the there are so many elements from where you can construct something or deconstruct something that speaking about message, like for instance when you said just before that even though you are not reacting to my motion, let's say consciously, then in somehow as well because it was so fast, it's like 10 minutes, and somehow you have to let pass so many information about what is happening, but at the same time then you will decide that there are some things that will be in relation to that reddish thing that is passing, which is me actually. There, so you have the conscious, there is somehow there is, yeah, there is me. um but because of the time frame, or just because what it was happening, then you don't really have the time to think and develop and to create a message. I don't know, it's just you create something that in, yeah, I don't know how I can reframe this. Like I think what we speak about message, or when I speak about message, it's getting more clear than is could be anything basically. Could be that you experience, could be the elements that are like, for instance, even at the beginning, like even at the beginning when you talk to me, like are, and those are things that we are not doing consciously, but I think when I see the idea of the message in my head, I think it's getting more into when in somehow you take decisions, when somehow I take decisions for some reason and for something to happen.
Right.
Don't know if that makes sense for you, or what do you think about it?
Yeah, I'm trying to not trying to understand, but more like kind of connect bits. pieces. But what I'm really interested is, yeah, like what is really the message about? Like not, I think what's interesting is not really the message itself, the content
No.
of the message, but like why message, what for, how is about this message, right? It's not like, because it's really personal, and right now we're not showing to anyone as, you know, live, and it's not really a performance, and it is
But
a
the,
practice.
but yeah, but that was something for me, like that this time, like the last time when we were talking, I was kind of like referring about the message as something that it has to take a shape in somehow. But now after this experience as well, and while we were talking, it's getting more clear there is something that it's something that yeah.
Yeah,
um
and I don't know if this is like lead to message, but definitely like what we did yesterday was different from my solo, because maybe what I was doing is the same, maybe, but not, you know, like it's what was happening inside, and also how maybe it was a frustration, or maybe it was a surprise that came into during this session together. And this would be more interesting as a message, because if I'm doing the solo, then maybe I'll try to make it perfect in a way, like, you know, because
yeah,
I'm already
yeah,
stuck with the tools. And let's say tool meaning, you know, this 1 hour slot as well. Like, okay, I have 1 hour, I have Hydra, tidal cycles, and these different samples I took from Rihanna. And then
yeah, I heard it, I heard it. I could see
I
it.
have more, but I couldn't use that. So those things, and my movement, and this is like interesting, but it's just about the content, right? And maybe I can be better at this. Maybe I can express whatever, but it's not really, I think it's not what I'm interested in. Like, this is okay, like this is interesting to me, for me to practice and find perfection, or some kind of whatever, using image to express myself. But these are the only questions that comes after the solo practice, and there's nothing more than just finding perfection or finding myself. And I think that's what is actually not so interesting, at least to me, that if we do it together, there are different things happen, which is maybe frustrating, but that's something to cope with, and some, or maybe not to cope with, something to live with.
Yeah.
And but after all, what is this? But we're not like trying to find, like, you know, doing things in tandem and doing like perfect live coding performance together.
No.
Like, we're not trying to do this. I think that's something
You know,
interesting.
something that I was thinking yesterday that I thought, because I was moving fast. It was the first time I was moving fast. So then when I see my recording on yours, then I see like, wow, is I think that it might be interesting as well to think, um, if, for instance, like how much, like for instance, like what if there is not too much delay? You know, what if there is more, because yeah,
Totally.
that's for something that is coming for me, like close to this idea of the content, or yeah, the content, or the tools that in somehow are basics, you know, is like, or to question, you know, because I'm not saying that we need to have like the no latency, less latency as possible. What I'm saying just is that will be interesting to try it in almost like real time, what happens, you know, like, well, you still, because then it's just something else will appear, then we don't know. And when I was watching the video yesterday, I could see that, like, yeah, and that's actually more because in terms of dance, you know, like I feel it slowly, like from path slowly I feel that is more like the dance is wanted to come, like to do more things like the dance, like which I think is very nice, because in my experience with this is like I almost didn't want it to move, because that's me first. Like then it's you thinking about Instagram, and then it's like me thinking that I know movements. I know, like I'm a dancer. I study that. So then it will be me. I don't move because I will search perfection, and then it's me with my own logic trying to. That is my me getting in the spiral, in this vortex, because then then it's basically that's why I don't move that much, because I try to not get crazy, because that will drive me crazy. And then what I think is beautiful is that slowly, and I feel it from path, I start moving with as when I start dancing, I guess. Then it's just like I start, like yesterday was because we have just 10 minutes, so I have just to move, and it was just like it's so much joy of dance, right?
Mm.
And I think that's something that I feel is more coming, that like the dancing is want to say things. I think is more than want to do things. It wants to say things regardless of what is coming out of it, which is wonderful, because then you can relate to this idea of or when Martin talks about, like, because then actually then I'm being hacked by my own then the dancing is hacking my own mind and body, and I'm just there,
Mm.
and then it's pure. Then it's pure when it
Subject performing form.
yeah,
Yeah,
uh, yeah. So
I
yeah,
see. Yeah, well, now I forgot what I wanted to comment on, because this pure dance thing, this is also interesting, but there's something I wanted to comment on. What did you say before that? It's a weird
uh,
question. Um,
uh, I was talking about, like, I had the latency, the
yeah, exactly. So this is like really interesting question, because I I try to, change setup a little bit. Like, every time I try to improve it. Maybe it's just about the volume. Maybe it's, somehow improve the frame rate of the recording. And I do it a lot, because I really want to optimize it, so that, like the last time I was sending the sound to your end. But what I really noticed is that, of course, Hydra performs much better if I don't have the video conference, like video call. Like if I'm doing alone, then
yeah,
Hydra works much better, because there's no Live Lab or Jitsi or Zoom that's sending data, and that slows down my computer. It's just a, tablet, PC, whatever. That's really not like high-end computer. So
yeah,
that's uh, something. Like when I was doing alone with the Hydra, it was somewhat better, and it was fun that I see myself dancing on the screen.
yeah,
Um, but then, yeah, then here comes the question, like when we do it together, because of the computer, because of the network, it's slow, the frame rate is really bad. Um, yeah, like, is that something that I think it's interesting? Like when we come together in Frankfurt, we should do
yeah.
something together. I mean, try to find, ways to work together, so that it's like,
Because we still need to find a way to not see each other. That would be so weird.
yeah,
That would be so weird to see. Yeah,
yeah.
but yeah, could be nice. Like we could find, maybe we can ask it there to the organization time to go to be to be in a studio, like to have to move a bit, to
Mm,
move. Um, yeah, to move a bit.
mm, yeah. What if we do it in a forest or something? I don't know. Um, I don't know if that's interesting.
Yeah, that works. But the thing is, like, I mean, that's actually will be very interesting as well. I will take with me some things, like some small things that I can carry. But then it's like, because I think, um, I mean, a part of, like, I think it's because a part of, like, physically then do something, a part of the electronics, you know, just
Mm,
physically do moving, that definitely I think we should do.
mm,
I think as part of the practice, for instance, I will see as part of the practice if we go to a forest and then we move there. But then then something has to be something, some interface has to be there. I think so. When we talk, because I think this part, when we talk about these best practices, I see like uh, that we are somehow what we are doing seems to me, as part as well of my research, how I think I see myself more doing is like working towards like ontology of interfaces, you know, then and the relation between the human, so we, and the digital interfaces, and how they cannot exist without each other. Meaning in the best practices, like if the best, like say the computer will not exist if you or me are not there. If the computer will just be there, but at the same time, in for the best practices, I'm not existing if I'm not there. So the relation between like this me being the man, like the power, you know, the person who knows to control the computer, is erased in a way. Like you are, I'm dependent. My existence for the best practices is depending, as in the same relation is horizontal to to the computation, the computer towards me. Like we both are depending for the existence. So this ontological question I found it very, I don't know where it's going, but I think what we do basically it has to be a lot with that. It's like we dealing with ourselves. That's what we have to talk personally some about
mm.
things, but at the same time, then we talk about the nature of the computer, and that's what we do about talking how it's going with work and these kind of things. Is the nature, is the being, the nature of what we do. And because of that, I think it will be, we have, I see like I would like to do in the forest, but then it's, we have to, I see that what can we use, you know, like what
Mm,
can still be, what can still be an interface. Could
mm.
be maybe just the Facebook that I was doing. I was thinking because I was doing with this in Puff, I remember, with Facebook, I remember I was doing something like that. Yeah, something.
I see.
But definitely will be super cool, super cool.
Yeah. Like when I said forest, it's not about, just being there and doing something, but like, well, I don't know if we bring computers to the forest and do it separately in a separate space. But that's different, that's not what I meant.
Yeah, I think.
Because that's just translating our space into somewhere else, not my room, but it's in the
Uh,
forest.
no,
Um,
but then from that perspective, what I'm saying, sorry, is that it's just the interface that in that case is the computer. It has to be translated into something. And so let's say,
I see.
just that's what I mean with the interface. The interface could be as well a camera, you know, could
Yeah,
be, doesn't have to be my MacBook Pro, doesn't have to be something.
yeah,
Just we have, but that's what that's what I was trying to introduce, this idea of like the ontology of of the interfaces, and then we define what are those for us.
right. Yeah. I agree. Like, for example, I mean, I'm not meaning, I don't mean to, understand that in a really technical sense. But for example, if we have a phone and then we connect to Jitsi and there's another computer that's recording Jitsi, then we can do that. We can just be there
That sounds
together
amazing.
and move
That
it
sounds amazing
and
to me.
move, and then we have a recording there. That's
Yeah.
very technical sense, but yeah, I think it's something that, yeah, it's not about us being the same space and moving together, but like how, yeah, like keeping this constraint of networked or interfaced, but
Yeah, I would.
doing it in a different space
Yeah, I will say
or
it more
condition.
than, I would say more than, because yeah, because I don't know what you refer with network, because I will say more than the network itself. I will say the interface, because the network will always, it will demand us to being connected somehow. And while we could,
I see.
I mean, like, well, I mean, we can as well like break down what does it mean a network, for instance. Like, does it mean like, do we have to be connected to the internet necessarily for being in a network? That could be part of like how we could deconstruct like the understanding of what is a network. Could be like the forest for it is a network of no, yeah. So, but then I think for as well practical reasons, and could be a good exercise is then we don't need I mean there is not necessary, we don't need to be connected to the same to an internet, let's say, like we could, that's what I said, like then that's what I just introduced it as an interface, whatever that we define as interfaces. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I think I understand. I mean, like, network was, I mean, because I didn't say internet, network in a, you know, broader sense. And
yeah, that's what,
it,
yeah, that's what
it could
yeah.
be, yeah, it could be like something else that, I don't know, I cannot come up with like a good example how we can be connected in a more like a primitive way. I don't know if we
Yeah,
use smoke or something to communicate, but maybe that's something we can do. Or
yeah.
I don't know, maybe we can have a phone call and just transfer the sound
It
or
would be
something
so
like that.
cool. It could be so cool. Like, for instance, like, maybe we should really try to do that. Like for instance, like, what if in just in a space, like, let's say in the same space. So then we do our best practices. Like, so we still, so basically we have just paper and colors, and then we try to do kind of our best practices just with paper and colors, and we record a session once we are together. So basically, it's like I kind of like draw. I just represent like my screen somehow, and then just start drawing you and or me, and then we can just exchange papers, you know, as if I will send you the my image, you know, like basically just do the same thing but in paper, and that could be interesting actually as an exercise, if you see what I mean.
But you mean like something representative, or it can be anything on the paper?
No, I mean, yeah, I'm really bad drawing. I cannot draw. So it's just anything that is just something that
Yeah,
is that it will
yeah.
just that it will just be, I think, because yeah, I think that it does in that sense, for instance, then we will be really close to like playing back and forward between the content that is very well defined, paper and colors, and then exchanging sheets of paper between you and me, like that's basically a screen that I send it to you, you send me something, and then like that, and then the message, because in somehow, and then I think it's nice they said, because then is, I don't think, yeah, I think consciously or unconscious, you will be trying to or represent me in the drawing or represent, I don't know, something in the drawing. And then sometimes you have to just let it go. And so I think because, yeah, I think that's the key of what I'm trying to say. Because of the speed of that practice is very slow, let's say, if we compare with computers, then you really actually then you could see almost, I think if we record like when we are in a more like trying to do messages, or when we are more working with the content, um, because of the speed, because it's so slow.
Mm, I see.
And as well because we don't, I mean, I'm not drawing, I'm really bad at drawing. That's yeah, yeah, it's just not natural.
But I think it's something like also related to what we talked about, you know, the frame rate, and what if we have like better connection, for example,
Yeah,
because that, you know, that might not be necessary, or actually we're not, like, we might be able to communicate better with pen and paper, for example. And that
Yeah.
is possible, you know, like, because you will be more concentrated on what you draw or what each other have drawn. And that might,
Which is,
that, you know, if we draw, maybe it transfers more, like, better idea than actually sending the screen share of Hydra, for example.
but don't you think, for instance, try to think like, because while you were speaking, I was like really imagining, because then you said like, yeah, I draw and then I give you a piece of paper. If you try to imagine, actually, if you give me a piece of paper with your drawings, it's almost, for me, and a bet, I mean, it will be very difficult for me to not try to make a sense of what you're giving me. In
Yeah,
that,
sure.
from that point of view, then the message, I mean, then somehow it will be very difficult for me to not, but that's the way how it works, no? It's that the communication is super clear because of the speed, no? You give me, this is the paper, and somehow I will make, yeah, that's the way how our brain works, no? I will make my assumptions,
Of
and then I
course.
will, yeah.
Yeah. And I think, to, as a, well, not a conclusion, but what's interesting is not really about, I mean, the content of what you draw or what I draw or you draw is probably, that's one thing to be, that's interesting. But if we think further, like, yeah, why is it working? How this process happened? Can we do it over network? I mean, over the internet, or we don't do it over the internet? These questions become more interesting, I think.
Yeah, that would be so cool. Like just like to do something like that, and then after, then you do it in the computer.
Hmm.
You know, then
Of
because
course, we're
it's,
not the same anymore.
no, but it's like it's very similar to how you do exercises while in dance. No, when you actually you limit it, let's say you limit the space of somebody of 2 meters, and then you have to improvise for 5 minutes, and then right after that, then you have the whole 10 meters. It's exactly the same because of the content, basically because of the constraints. No,
Hmm.
you define very limited spaces where things are very clear, in order for you to free you afterwards.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, yeah. It's kind of like, I don't know. It feels like when you have like dogs, like fighting dogs, and you're kind of like pulling them. You know, like then it's like you're more like just you're exciting them, and then just you let them go. You know, let them the horses run.
I see. But what I wanted to say, but I think this is really interesting topic, because last time you talked about tools and should we, like, find a set of tools that we always use. But this question of changing the, let's say, the constraints, that's, I mean, I'm not, I'm saying that in the sense that they don't conflict, but it could be interesting if we define clearly what are the constraints, what are the variables in the constraints we can change, and,
Uh,
like, with regard to the tools, are we changing tool every time
yeah,
based
yeah,
on
yeah, yeah,
constraints,
yeah.
or do we try to, you know, have same tools as much as possible?
Yeah.
I mean, we don't have to stick to one thing. I think we can just, you know, change it, but then
No,
we have to
but
be really conscious about what the decisions we make.
I like this idea. I mean, what you said, because in somehow you're changing this. That's my understanding of translation of what you said, is that because instead of like speaking about tools, is more about constraints. And then because if you said about tools, is like, okay, Naoto, Jorge, you're gonna use just Hydra, you can use just one screen, and you can use just one speaker and just one loop Rihanna song. um, and so instead of that, then I like this idea when we refer then instead of the constraints, because then could be something that is more abstract. then you said,
True.
yeah, then we just define, and could be so many different constraints. I mean, and that for itself is gonna be very tricky, you know, because then we both have to, because what we're proposing is just something that is very, uh, as I understand, like the constraints, they are very well defined and for you and for me, but at the same time that they are malleable, like that they allow to take different shapes while they still are constraints well defined for you and for me that we both understand. And I think that will be very tricky because then we have to agree in something that is not that we are talking about Hydra is Hydra, you know, or a computer is a computer. But then we talk about constraints, and then we define what are the constraints that we want. Uh, and then if I talk about speed, then something it might be speed in my head, and something is different for you in your head. I really like this idea. I'm putting in my notes, like I like to refer more, instead of talking about the tools, to talk about the constraints.
Yeah,
Those
think
are
that
kind of variables.
I think that's something I wanted to, that was I had in mind last time, but I couldn't really find that what's the right
I love it.
idea.
I love it. And I love, because it's really computer related, it's like variables, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
I really like it. Okay, maybe we should close here. I really
Yeah.
like this idea of constraints.
So I stopped the recording.
Yes.